Hi everybody, Hellcracks here, and welcome to Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 160. And today we're going to go delving back into the Jenner in the 3050 era, and maybe some of the variants, and maybe what we can do with this thing. The Jenner still follows the role of the Scout, so if you go back to the first video I did on this, and go in the archives and look that up, it pretty much is the same mech. It's almost identical except for some minor differences that we can delve into real quickly. Alright. It's not a bad mech. Not great. It's pretty much pure Scout. Now, it's still running at 800 or about 900 points. When it comes to battle value, it's still a 711.5. And it has a 10 single heat sinks, which I guess in 3050 there's still kind of a rare thing. It has 62 armor versus the 64 that the previous D version had, but that's because it's using ferrofibers and they knocked off some of that tonnage for the armor and used it for case. So there is an improvement, but we still have two medium lasers in the right and left arm. We still have the SRM4 in the center torso with a ton of ammo in the right torso with that case that it has, and the jump jets are in the right and left torso and center torso for the 5 of them. So it still could have used that extra 2 jump jets that it really could use. So there could have been some major improvements on this mech at the expense of something else. Now, it's basically the same mech, other than when you take out a torso and the ammo explodes, you're still left with, the mech because the ammo blew up. Now, personally, I think this mech, if you really wanted to redesign this thing, they could have done a few different things with it and maybe a little better, but, it's still one of those things where it has some good speed, can get around, be the eyes and ears for any type of company that's running around out there in the field. But it still suffers from the common problem that the previous versions all had. If you were out in the field with a Jenner, and that is armor. It doesn't have any, really. It just has enough to keep the pilot from falling out. You hit this thing with pretty much anywhere with a large laser, except for the center torso, and you're either stripping all the armor off or you're punching into the internal structure. You hit this thing with a PPC or an AC-10, you are practically lifting that arm or leg or whatever it may be practically off of it. I've hit Jenners before with an AC-20, lucky shots, and practically almost obliterated the thing. So it suffers from major armor problems. That is been since the get-go with this thing. So you still have to use it in the same way. You got to maximize your speed, get into cover and concealment, and try to keep this thing from getting hit. You got to move all those modifiers into your favor to keep it from going down. Alright, now let's just delve into a few things. There are some variants. Obviously we have the K version, we've talked about the D version. Now there have been some good upgrades on this thing. Some variants I've seen at Gen Con before and used it myself in games before is the C version, which removes one of the medium lasers for a C3 slave and combines it with the network, and it's able to be the eyes and ears. So it's just trying to stay out there and stay alive, moving as fast as possible. Now, that version, I would have preferred it, they would have been better off just dropping the SRM4 in favor of maybe one medium laser and add more armor, and keep the C3 slave. I would have preferred that. you know, use that SRM instead for your upgrades. But you know, I've used it to good effect before it got obliterated with the lucky shot. Now, if you're facing clans, the Jenner, you get hit with a PVC or anything of that nature, this thing's gone. It's just done. It's a done dinner. And that's the problem with the 3050 era. Mechs like this, they don't have much life expectancy if they have to face the clans. It's just the nature of the beast. Now we have the C2 version, which came out by Luthien Armor Works. This one, not so great. I do believe, in my own opinion, it has 3 MML5s. I guess that's good range. It has 3 tons of ammunition. It has heavy ferrofibrous armor. Has an XL engine, so it did, you know, it's taking the engine, dropping the size, you know, tonnage down so they can throw some stuff on, but it has to have a small cockpit, and it still has the C3 Slave, which is good. And then the jump jets have been increased up, but you know, by 1 as it goes to a 6 instead of a 7. So yeah, it's one of those problems that it still suffers from those problems. Now the XL engine, they did gain 6 tons with it because of the XL engine, but you know, what can you do? The C3 Jenner stays true to the C2 or the C version. It upgraded to medium lasers to 3 ER medium lasers, has double heat sinks, has case and the missile launcher were dropped for another heat sink and a little bit more armor and the C3 Slave. So in this case, they actually got kind of smart and upgraded so now you have at least have some ER medium lasers, so it has a little bit better range. You got the C3 Slave, more armor, you know, so this thing can now move around a little bit faster. I think it would have been better off with still has plenty of room if you wanted to throw some ferrofibrous armor on instead. You know, that would have been a good upgrade. That really would up the protection a little bit. Then we have the C4. This uses the experimental C3 boosted slave, the shared network. And still, the other weapon, it's been replaced with a pair of MML5 launchers. It has double heat sinks, heavy ferrofibrous armor. So it's a little bit better protected, but you know, this is kind of like a fast-moving scout that has some good launchers on board, but you know, you can't get really close. And that's the thing about the C3 Slave, is getting close enough so the mechs that are farther back at least get the benefit of it. But if you can't get your mech close enough to do it, you know, it's like you're only getting minor effects out of the whole deal. Personally, I think I'd rather have a fast-moving tank with fewer weapons as my eyes and ears. That's just my opinion. Then we have the F version. This one has the 4 medium lasers as a D version, but not the SRM4. In its place is carrying 3 more tons of armor, which was lacking. That doesn't have to worry about the ammunition, so that's a good thing. So right there, they could have thrown some ferrofibers on. You know, obviously getting rid of the SRM for more armor, that's a good deal. I like that. If you can combine it with a C3, so you can take that advantage out of the whole mix, then it's doing a better deal. Obviously, we talked about the K, and then there's the experimental X version. Well, this one it has a XL engine, okay, composite internal structure, all right, and it has a torso mounted cockpit, which is kind of weird in a way, but you know, Its missile weapons were completely dropped in favor of the mech's medium laser armament. So it has 6 medium lasers. Jump jet's been increased to 7, so that's a great deal. And it has an ECM on board, light ferrofibrous armor. For stealth capabilities, has a null signature. So this is way advanced technology stuff. This came out in 3072. So that's 30 something years down the road from where we're talking. So yeah, if you're playing in that era, then obviously the X version might be something to look at, to use for during the jihad. Now, what would you do with it? That's a good question. What I would do with it? What would you do with it? The first thing I'm thinking I would do with the K. Obviously, we are in the era where we have access to maybe some advanced technology. One of the first things I would do is put double heat sinks on it, because obviously you can fire your weapons and jump. At least you're not going to barbecue your mech. That's the one good thing about it, is like putting double heat sinks on it. So that way, so if you fired the 4 medium lasers, that's 12. If you jumped 5, that's 17. Right there, you're not worrying about the heat. Yeah, you don't have the capability of overheating the mech unless you get hit with some infernals or something. But you know, I will rather live with that. Now, here's where we're going to change it a little bit. We're dropping the SRM4 because, to me, I'd rather tank this thing up into having something that has a little bit better armor. Now, if we don't have access to C3, okay, we'll just throw some armor on and increase the jump jets. If you can jump, go make it a 7-11-7, so it has ability to move around faster, get around obstacles, go over obstacles, and increase its armor with ferrofibrous. You know, so much the better. So you can end up with a mech with 4 medium lasers with 108 points of armor, and it's a 7-11-7. So that way it can take a few hits along the line and still survive. Now, one of the things I would do is, instead of having all my weapons in the arms, I would move probably 2 of them to the center torso, where you had the SRM before. Put 2 of the medium lasers in the center torso, and then 1 in each arm. So that way you can flip the things if you need to. And then, you know, you have something at least facing to the forward. And your whole job is just to be eyes and ears and harassment type of deal. And eventually, when the game gets more involved, then you can jump in behind somebody and run in behind somebody and, you know, hit them in the flanks. Or, you know, if you see a mechs with the weak spots, like they got a whole side torso that's open, maneuver yourself to get into that torso so you can hopefully ram some damage down through that hole. Now, if you have access to the C3 system, then I'd be willing to drop one of those medium lasers in the center torso for a C3 slave. So yeah, you're only sitting with 3 medium lasers, but you got a C3 slave. That way you can link into a network and do a better job of being in eyes and ears. Yeah, you don't have enough armor per se. You're short by 11, but you know, at least you still have the maneuverability of a 7-11-7. You know, you can jump around and get into terrain. You know, jump 7, jump into heavy woods and stuff like that. At least you're get some modifiers so they can't hit you or have a hard time hitting you. But that's pretty much what I'd do. Move it into the scout role and tank it up so it can stay around a little bit longer. Now, I'm willing to give up a little bit of damage output just to keep the thing alive a little bit longer. That's it. That's pretty much it when it comes to the Jenner. With the new version, the K, the Kilo. Alright. Hope you guys liked this one. Like and subscribe. hopefully we'll see something a little better down the road, but we'll talk with y'all later. Hellcracks out.